Hey, all you burners out there, this is WeedMan 420 with the WeedMan 420 Chronicles. I want to say hello to all my burners, tokers, smokers, all my potheads, all my stoners out there. How you all doing? I'm hopefully you guys are doing okay because it's been a crazy few weeks. I hope you're all safe. I hope you're all sound. I hope you're all smoking and toking and not choking on this one, okay? I hope you enjoyed the last few episodes we've been talking about, but we took a little bit of a break just amid watching all of the protests and peaceful marches, and we did a lot of smoking and I guess you want to call thinking, and we're very spiritual in our house, so just doing a lot of talking to one another and about how we can change our lives during this time. But before I go into more of that, I really wanted to talk about the C19 and how smoking joints with people and not being able to smoke joints with people the last 81 days has really been crazy for me. And what brought me a little bit of hope back was watching some of these peaceful protests. And me and Mrs. WeedMan were a part of one. And but watching some of these peaceful protests and watching people sharing cannabis again brought me back to reality before the COVID-19 and gave me hope to see the youth smoking cannabis together. And as I've always said, cannabis brings communities together. No matter what color, what race, what religion, what creed you are, cannabis is green for everybody. And I hope I can smoke joints with you again, because I've shared many of joints and many of bowls and much weed with many people around this great nation of ours and this great world of ours. And I want to keep on doing that. And I look forward to keep on doing that. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all soon and smoking joints with you all. But another thing moving forward is today's marks 2 years of Anthony Bourdain's death. So, Mrs. WeedMan and myself are big fans of Anthony Bourdain, and one of his lines that I have always read and really liked is, next to making proper omelet or wiping your own ass, rolling a joint is an essential life skill for any self-respecting member of society.
I love him.
We do like Anthony Bourdain in this house. Mrs. WeedMan's going to talk about this or smoke a little bit of this purple train wreck that I got from a friend of mine. So I didn't get it from a dispensary, but I got it from a friend of mine because he said I had to try this bud. So it's got a couple different names. Mrs. WeedMan, do you want to grab that in front of you real quick? It's called either Purple Train Wreck or Purple Wreck or Granddaddy Train Wreck or Granddaddy Wreck. And it is, I don't really have the cannabinoids, what this strain, probably I would say about 24 to 26% on what it made me feel. But the terpenes are pretty dope. It's got terpene in there, which is a fruity flavor, herbal floral terpene that also is found in apples, lilacs, and nutmeg. Mycrene, which we talked about last time, which is in a lot of different cannabis strains. It's the most common terpene found in cannabis and has an earthy scent. And then chirophyllene, which is peppery, spicy peppery terpene that may have anti-inflammatory benefits. I smoked this last night for the first time, and I really enjoyed it. The one thing I do have to say, it is not, even though it is an indica dominant hybrid, it is not a sleepy sleep weed cannabis strain. It did not make me sleep. You smoked it, Mrs. WeedMan. How did it make you? Did you actually? You were snoring last night.
Sleepy. I was pretty sleepy right away. Yeah.
It was a thinking strain for me. A little bit energizing. It kept me mellow, but it had my mind going till around 2:33 in the morning last night. I didn't say I didn't like it, just not want to put me in the couch. And I'm going to take a hit right now while Mrs. WeedMan talks a little bit about this strain.
And for me, I smoked and I was really relaxed. I kept dozing off. We were watching The Handmaid's Tale, and I couldn't stay awake for the last 15 minutes if you paid me.
You couldn't. I
think Mr. WeedMan rewound the end of the episode twice for me, and I still don't think I saw the end. So we'll be watching that again tonight.
Very true.
So I was very relaxed, although Mr. WeedMan said this morning that I was apparently having some crazy dreams, because sometimes when I have intense dreams, I talk in my sleep, and I was doing that last night.
Yes,
so
you were talking. It was very funny.
It may not have made me actively creative or deep thinking, but apparently when I was sleeping, it was keeping my mind going.
Yeah, it does say in the effects of this cannabis strain, it says euphoric, happy, relaxed, uplifted, and creative. It gives like different percentages. Euphoric, I would agree with upon. Happy, I was happier than pig and
Yeah.
shit. Relaxed, yes, relaxed, but I would move the creative percentage on this to like 50% for me because I thought I could save the world yesterday. And that happens a lot when I'm on indica, but I was thinking about this episode and what I should be talking about with people and with our fellow burners and stoners and potheads on here. Hopefully you'll see because we weren't baked before we started this episode, so hopefully you see how this strain affects us throughout the podcast and how we roll with it. So, but I do like it. I do highly kind of recommend it if you can find it. The taste is really good.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes really, really nice. It's very, very herbal, but I also would call it very. I don't taste pepper in it at all, like they say, but I do taste a little fruit flavor to it, but
Citrusy.
more, yes, citrusy, but a lot of herbalness to it, and I do like it a lot. It's very nice. So thank you, my man, 64 Creative. Appreciate you for that little nug you threw me. I really like it. Now going back to the important stuff here, what we've been seeing the last 14 days, and me and Mrs. WeedMan, we did participate in a peaceful march. What happened to George Floyd was terrible, and what's going on in this country is a revolution, and what I'm seeing is making me happy. I brought many tears a few nights when I saw people getting hurt, young kids getting hurt in the street, families being disoriented during some of these marches, and it hurt. It hurt watching young people get hurt, and that was my biggest thing that me and Mrs. Weedman kept on talking about. As a tear might come down my eye on this one because I cherish life, I cherish humanity, and I cherish all of you, our people that listen around the world. And what you're seeing is something amazing that never in history that I thought I would see in my lifetime, and that is the world coming together. Change is going to happen, and it's going to happen soon. And don't be afraid of change, okay? Change is good. You need change every 100 years. You can't keep on doing the same thing over and over. Okay? So be blessed, everybody. Okay? Like we always say on this podcast, be kind. Be nice to one another. Smoke cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Weedman, you got anything to say?
Oh, it's just been just a very emotional few weeks, like you're saying. So not only do we have a pandemic going on and we're not seeing people that we love and we're not spending time with friends, and then we have George Floyd. And I think so much as the fact that, it was terrible to see him murdered, it's also just, like Mr. Weedman is saying, it was just kind of a wake-up. It was the icing on the cake for so many people, and just everybody just wants change, and it's time. It's time to end the way that things are done and have new beginnings and have more equality for everybody. It's just an important thing that's happening right now, and hard to understand and hard to encompass and take it all in and process. But
we're learning every day.
We're learning, yeah.
Every day as a community, as a people, as humanity, as all of us. So as Mrs. Weedman is drawing a tear also, it was very emotional time. Because we have a lot of friends in the world and a lot of friends in our neighborhoods and people who we love and care for.
On both sides.
Everywhere.
Both sides of the story. We have, people of different races as friends, and we have friends and family who are police and military. And, one doesn't make the other one right or wrong. We just have to make things better for everybody.
100%. Moving on, and as we've talked about in many episodes about the vape cartridges, as we've told you, as we find more findings going on, we will relay them to you so to keep you educated on what you're smoking. Okay, remember that. And researchers at Portland State University in Oregon have recently identified pine resin in a sample of cannabis extract. So they're saying in this article that I'm reading from the Portland University is that Dr. Robert Strongen, one of the two researchers behind the paper, says he was tipped off to the product by a contact in the cannabis industry in the U.S. who came across the product and wanted to know what was in it. After running tests of the product, determined the ingredients, and then cross-referenced those findings after also analyzing samples of pine resin they ordered online. They confirmed a sample they were given contained pine resin, as well as vitamin E acetate and a product called alimide, commonly found in synthetic marijuana products like Spice or K2. That's the shit that makes you crazy. That Spice and K2s, you watch people fucking jump out of the windows. So that,
literally,
yeah, stay away from that crap, okay? As weed as cannabis is becoming more and more legal, just get it legally, please. Don't be taking that fake crap you get it over the counter. The product is sold as a cutting agent for vape pens. They did the analysis and found that it had abatic acid, which is a main ingredient in pine resin. And then they bought a sample of the pine resin from Amazon, and everything matched just to the T of what they were testing. It also had hypnotic agent alimide, which was present in Spice, the fake marijuana that is sometimes sold on the street. It had the medium chain triglyceride, plus all of the ingredients matched perfectly for pine resin. They published this. It looks like it has a huge effect on health in your lungs. On top of that vitamin E acetate. So who knows now what it is now? Is it the vitamin E acetate? Is it the pine resin they're finding? So do your research like we've talked about, and make sure you're getting your vape cartridges from a reliable source. And ask to see what's in it. You can ask. You should be asking and educating yourself. So now it's the stuff that's causing your lungs to fail, okay? So just know that, as we talked about, we will keep on finding research for you all and keep on finding more and more about this. Just know your product, okay? This is a very touchy subject we're going to talk about next, and it is about our presidential candidates. And as you know, that we talked about on these podcasts before, we're not a political podcast at all, okay? We're not. Like we said on other podcasts, we don't go left, we don't go right. But here's the thing. The two candidates that are running right now, and I'm not even going to mention their names. You all know who they are, for the Democratic Party and for the Republican Party. Don't be duped by them saying that they will get cannabis federally legal. Don't buy into that bullshit, because one on the Republican side said let the states handle it, just like President Obama did. The other candidate a year ago said that he would not even think about cannabis as becoming federally legal, and then 6 months ago or 4 months ago, he said, "Oh yeah, we'll get cannabis on the docket. I'll make sure it's passed." Why do candidates promise stuff? To get you to vote for them, okay? And if all of us burners, stoners, tokers, chokers, potheads out there buy into stuff like that, it's not going to help our cause. And there was a great article and a great interview by the Breakfast Club, and I listened to it and watched it, and Joe Biden was stumbling, mumbling, and rumbling during this interview. And I suggest that you listen to it. I'm not going to go through the whole thing with this, but it was a great interview, and it just made him stumble on what cannabis was about. Also, the Black Lives Matter movement and all that stuff. I'm not beating him up at all. Just be careful and research who you're voting for. That's all I'm asking you to do. Do your research on the candidates for your local, state, federal. Just research what they're all about and make your own decision. Don't let people make decisions for you. Remember that. That's all I'm going to say. And if you want to learn more about what these candidates are on cannabis, because it does affect us, if it doesn't come federally legal soon, it's going to hurt our cause in opening up more states, doing more research, and learning more about this phenomenal plant that was put on this earth for us to enjoy and to heal. Okay? So just learn and be wary. Arizona, which I've eaten some great edibles and smoking some good cannabis from Arizona, has said that we need to be wary of big cannabis and the dangers today of big. They call it big marijuana, but we call it big cannabis on this podcast. You have to be wary of the big companies and big corporations coming in to take over cannabis. Now, I know in California there's a lot of small growers, and I don't know so much about Arizona cultivation. It's stuff I need to learn about. But they don't like that big cannabis is coming in to take over. That's, I think, really good for that state to protect cultivators and the cannabis industry. And that's what you're going to see, as we've talked about in other podcasts, that cigarette companies and major pharmaceutical companies coming in and buying out and spending billions of dollars and lobbyists and to be able to buy the cannabis industry out from the people who actually started it. Okay? Remember that. Just learn and read and fight for your communities to get a dispensary that you can buy into, that you can grow. Don't let big corporations come in and take over this industry. It will ruin it forever. Okay? So just remember that. Here's another thing. One of MedMen was one of the hottest cannabis startups, and they were hyping the green rush and throwing huge parties. They were calling themselves the Apple of pot. Okay? Bullshit. Okay? All they wanted to do was make billions of dollars and sell the industry out. And it was just for them. This dude, a guy, his name is Bierman, started MedMen and was throwing big, huge parties, hiring big wigs to come to his parties and actors and actresses and to hang out at these parties, thinking he was the man of the cannabis industry. Well, here's the deal. That dude screwed up so bad, he embezzled $1.6 billion. Embezzled it, stole it, and thought he was going to be a part of this green rush. And this is what we have to watch out for in the cannabis community. Do not let this be taking over. And I'm just giving you more and more information of watching out for big companies, because we, the true burners, the true stoners, the true potheads, the people that have been in the industry and who've been promoting it even before I was born, are the ones that should be learning how to grow it, how to sell it, how to manufacture it, how to use it to move forward to help our communities out. And that's just my opinion. You could take it or leave it. But just look at everything that's going on in the industry right now. Stock options, guys buying out other companies, spending billions of dollars because they know the rush is coming. Okay? So if one of the presidents who I told you that's running federally legalizes it, you have claws waiting with the tentacles of, what are those puppets called? The marionette puppets, right? With the strings, kind of like the Godfather, playing the strings on you and playing the strings on communities, going, oh, we'll give this much to you if you give me this part of your community to run a cannabis. Fuck that. You take it over. You fight for your community. If you want to get in cannabis, we shouldn't be having to pay millions of dollars to get into the cannabis industry. It's total horseshit that we have to do this. I think it's false. I think for an application in Illinois to become a cultivator when it first launched was $250,000 just for the license.
And I think that was non-returnable.
Thank you.
If you did not get accepted.
Thank you, Mrs. WeedMan. That was just for the that was just for the application fee.
Yeah, what do they say? Like the average startup for a cultivation center is like $5 million between what you have to have in liquid assets.
Yes.
Your licensing, and then the cost to build out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just Illinois. I don't even know what goes on in other states. I love Michigan because they have caregivers where people can grow, which I've been saying on this podcast that Illinois needs to do. And if you want a single mom in the east side of Chicago to be able to provide for their family, she can have a small little grow and be able to sell like they do in Michigan. They have 20 medical card holders that a caregiver grows for and sells to them and grows their flower for them and then sells it to them.
So cool. It's a mom and pop shop.
It's a mom and pop shop. Don't forget, small businesses run this country still. And as we get more into cannabis, don't let the big companies take over. Go ahead, Mrs. WeedMan. You were going to say something?
I was just going to say that they immediately, the laws that were put in place from the get-go in Illinois, knocked out the mom and pop. I mean, it just wasn't even reasonable to think that you could be part. People were pooling, tens of guys and women, a lot of women, were just pooling funds. Whoever had, anything they had in their retirement savings and their whatever, under a mattress, wherever they had it. If you had, $10, $15, $20, $30, $40,000, you had a foot in there, but it would take 10 of these guys to do it together. Nobody had the money. And then because there weren't enough patients in the get-go, now you've got $5 million invested. God only knows how many investors. And you've got no income stream because you have, 5,000 patients in the whole state. And there's how many cultivation centers initially?
Cultivators,
were there 5?
25.
But the first
was 5 before they all started opening up. Yeah.
So you had, you can't keep a $5 million business afloat with no revenue. So now all these investors, well, you've put every penny you have available into that. Anyway, long story short, is the normal mom and pops who have knowledge and work ethic and entrepreneurship in their hearts, we don't even have a chance.
None.
We don't have a chance.
We can't even get a bank loan.
Yeah.
You can't even get a bank loan
for the business.
For the business, any of it. You can't get nothing. And I'm not even talking. I'm talking about any community. Cannabis
it should be a mom and pop.
Man,
it should. 100%. The opportunity should be present, like you're saying with the caregiver, where you're growing bud for 10 specific people.
Maybe how about make a little bit more? How about 30 or 40 people that and like I've said this before, a single mom. That can grow and stay home and raise her kids and be able to grow cannabis and be able to provide for 20, 30, 40 people and make $75,000, $80,000 a year. You could buy yourself a nice home. You could buy yourself a car, put your kids to good schools. I think Lori Lightfoot, and I've said this before, needs to stick her nose out. I don't care. Needs to stick her nose out and help out her communities in Chicago who need this. The poorer communities that need this to be able to provide incomes. Strong family incomes, and why not do it with cannabis? Here's another thing: veterans, and we have a veteran in our family, and they're having struggles in states that aren't medically legal. They can't get cannabis, so they're going to the black market, which is wrong. We need to do a lot more for our veterans. They fought for this country, and they were able to come back, and they have PTSD, and they put them on all different kind of medications, or they don't go on medications.
Yeah, or then they're getting addicted because the doctors are giving them drugs upon drugs, and they just want marijuana, and they can't get it.
Right. So, I mean, they need cannabis, and scientists are backing these veterans up. And it actually is going they filed a suit last week in the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals asking for a review of the DEA scheduling determination. As you know, the DEA schedule is a federal Schedule 1, federally illegal. And you have to know that, so you have to go up against the DEA, okay, which is a government entity, okay? And these veterans and scientists are going up against them, and they had put up some money, and they're going to fight it, and hopefully they win. And Mrs. WeedMan really likes that strain, just so you know. She went for a second run on that. So let's hope that we start seeing more and more states at least medically legalize it. Let people grow cannabis in their own home. Let people grow 3 or 4 plants and not have to struggle to buy it. Cannabis is not cheap, especially as more and more bigger corporations come out. Veterans might not be able to afford it. People in poor communities might not be able to afford cannabis going to dispensary. It's not cheap. I mean, for most people, $60 to $85 an eighth is not cheap here in Illinois. Some states are different. Some states are cheaper. But let's start looking into more and more of our veterans being able to get cannabis so we don't start getting it more and more into problems. Here's something I found interesting last week. Pro athletes who love cannabis are taking sponsorships from cannabis companies. But here's the downfall of that. Some of these athletes who love cannabis but are sponsored by major companies like a Nike or a New Balance or major shoe companies or clothing companies don't want to associate themselves with athletes who are taking cannabis contracts, which is wrong. Wrong. You could sell a $120 Nike shoe and put that name of that athlete on there and use him up. Don't get me wrong, you're paying for it. But they can't go to a cannabis company? Mrs. WeedMan, what do you think about that?
Oh, it's just a rule of advertising, but it's just silly. I mean, it's like whoever pays the most to be the sponsor of that person gets to decide how that person lives and what they wear, or anytime they walk out of their home. And if they want to support something that's legal and, maybe not approved by the NFL or the AFL, but it's legal.
NFL.
Nonetheless. Isn't there an AFL?
There used to be back in the 60s.
Ah, shoot, really?
We'll have some.
Look at me. I'm so like smart about sports. I'm a dork.
You want to talk about the NFL? You want to talk about the NHL,
NBA?
Yes. You want to talk about soccer? So stuff like that. Yes. But the
Golf Association.
There you go.
Tennis pros.
There you go.
Polo.
There you go.
NASCAR.
That'd be really weird seeing
surfers.
You know, it'd be really cool though.
Is there a league for surfing? Professional surfing circuit?
Yes, there's a surfing
Skateboarders.
circuit, skateboarding. But the cool thing about it is,
BMX.
imagine NASCAR. We're not really NASCAR.
Sport boats.
We're not NASCAR watchers. I mean, we've seen it on TV and stuff like that. But those cars go fast around the track, and when you're stoned, you kind of get dizzy watching it. But sorry, NASCAR racers, watchers, we love you. But imagine seeing Dale Earnhardt Jr.
With
because
a pot leaf on his hood.
A pot leaf on his hood. Or a big nug in the back of his...
That'd be so funny.
Oh, that'd be dope.
That'd be funny.
Cool. That'd be cool. But big brands like the ones we mentioned don't want to talk about cannabis.
No.
It's increasingly... It's not sanctioned professionally. You know, it's not... I know the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball... MLB are kind of letting it, like, they're letting their players use it. There's going to be some... But the thing is, though, if these major corporations don't want to get behind it, and I think it's wrong, and you have an athlete that's a star that can sell product for you...
Yeah, why can't you cross-advertise?
Why not? He's not
It's not like you got, like, a Dorito and a Tostito. I mean, they're different.
Actually,
they're different
that'd be kind of cool, though. Those Doritos would probably sell a hell of a lot more if they found out that athlete was smoking a J and eating a Dorito.
I'm saying they can't have a Dorito on one sleeve and a Tostito on the other. It's like direct competition. But if you had Nike on one foot and a Nug on the other foot, it'd be like, hey, we can work together.
See what I'm saying?
I have to tell you, this weed makes you feel a little funny. So I'm happy to let you know that all 10 of my toes work, but one of them won't really work the right way. So it's really bothering me. So my left big toe won't fan out. I can get all my other toes to move that way. It's acting like it only wants to go up and down.
See what happens when Mrs. Weedman goes back for a second run? Second hit.
Well, I wasn't sure if that was really happening, but that's why I had another hit, and that's happening. Sorry. And I want to just keep smiling.
You will see athletes of maybe some more of the different circuits, like snowboarding, skateboarding, surfing, I think get sponsored by CBD companies and eventually cannabis companies, and it won't get looked at. But I don't know if baseball, football, hockey, are ready yet.
But maybe once they get sophisticated testing equipment that can determine the level of THC in your blood, or can determine how long ago it was that you smoked, and if you know what I mean, if they can fine tune that test, and if a player comes to practice at 8 a.m. and they don't blow positive or whatever they have to do, then it's not an issue.
Right. We, in this article, they're talking about Wana gummies. We like their gummies a lot. They're really good. You actually have the sour ones upstairs that you've eaten before. They are that's a funny name, but they are partnering up with a brand called Tokyo Starfish. And what they're trying to do is they want to affiliate the recreational use of cannabis with lifestyle living, which is kind of cool. Trying to, people who run every day as to keep in health and wellness, yoga. They're talking about different ways of working out, but an active, healthy lifestyle and incorporating cannabis in their promotion of it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's pretty dope. So we'll end on that one there. Here's something really cool. And for you people who are growing at home now, if your states allow it, or if you just grow anyway, or one day you'll be able to keep that cannabis root. Just like a ginseng root, just like a ginkgo biloba root. What other kind of roots are good for you? What is that?
Arrowroot?
Yeah, arrowroot.
I don't know what that is.
Well, there's different types of roots that people take. I mean, we saw ginseng for like $1,200 a root at downtown Chinatown. Remember, that was crazy when we were walking to the stores there. But scientists are looking into the roots of cannabis and finding out that it has antimicrobial activity in the roots, which is awesome, because if you're growing, you're going to have roots eventually, and as they do more and more testing on this, we're going to be able to use this whole plant. I know there's some people already out there that use the whole plant, but they're saying that it has antimicrobial activity against both Cryptococcus neoformanus, which is a fungus.
Wow.
Did I actually say it right?
It sounded
right. Pretty right. I actually sounded smart for a second.
That's pretty good.
And E. coli.
Whoa.
That's huge because E. coli is a bacteria that makes you poop a lot. And you get very bad stomach aches when you get E. coli. And that's eating like bad meat or bad. It wasn't in like
Food
lettuce
poisoning.
and cilantro and all that shit at one time. We find it in there a lot.
Alfalfa
I think it's because poop, like water, poopy water.
That's what they claim.
Well, you don't wash your cilantro, you're going to get E. coli. And
who's pooping in the water? How do you get poopy water on your produce in the middle of a farm?
You never know. Cannabis roots form a high CBD variety used in the study came from the U.S. Cannabis Farm and Laboratory at the University of Mississippi. They were washed, dried, and ground up before being extracted through various methods of including hexane, ethyl acetate, and methanol. The extract product was then analyzed to identify specific compounds in the root sample. The antimicrobial activities of these 10 isolated compounds were then tested against a host of microbes, including E. coli and that C. neoformans. While E. coli is the better known of the two, primarily because it can cause gastrointestinal distress. Damn, I got that right. In some people, as well as urinary tract infections, and C. neoformans can affect the lungs or the central nervous system of people with compound immune systems. And they're doing major research with the cannabis root to see if these work. That is fucking awesome because if you're growing at home and this stuff is good, you could dry the roots out and you can grind it and add it to coffee. You can add it to your protein shakes or shakes in the morning. You can just take it in whatever. Hopefully they find more and more. See, that's why United States of America, you need to get it off the federal one. It gets me angry when I talk. It's time, okay? And because of the health of this beautiful plant given to us by Mother Earth that could be used to heal people.
Preach it. I'm
trying to today. It's that strain. Thanks, 64
Hallelujah.
Creative. I appreciate you. Hey, you know what? One of me, Mr. Weedman at 420 and Mrs. Weedman at 420's favorite holiday is coming up, and that is the 4th of July. And we love the 4th of July because we always throw a big barbecue, and there's a lot of cannabis at our barbecues, and we smoke a lot of joints, and we have a lot of fun with people that come over.
We eat a lot.
And we do eat a lot. Smoke a lot, eat a lot, drink a lot, and it's one of my favorite days of the year. Besides Thanksgiving, 4th of July is probably my second favorite holiday. And just call me fat. But I will tell you this. Mrs. Weedman's going to take it over because she's done a great job with all the topics that she's been talking about family and cannabis. Here's what's going to happen. Because neighborhoods, and you saw me post this on our Instagram and my Facebook, if you smell weed in your neighborhood, what's the first thing you need to do? Mind your business. Unless you're a cannabis smoker and then come and knock on the door and smoke with them. That's fine. You can do that anytime you want. Somebody DM me that. He goes, what if I just want to come over and take a hit? Then come over and take a hit. Just don't call the cops or be stupid because you're smelling cannabis in your neighborhood. Here's what's going to happen, though. Mrs. Weedman's going to talk about this. With this holiday, it's going to be a big one. We're all going to celebrate. It's probably going to be the biggest celebration we've seen in a long time because of the COVID-19's done and what people have been going through and fighting for and holding hands for and being patriots and loving one another. This holiday is the most important holiday, I think, of 2020. More so than my favorite is 420, April 20th. But this one here is going to be something special, and people are going to celebrate. You're going to see fireworks. You're going to see not just firework clouds of smoke. You're going to see weed smoke across this great nation of ours because people are going to celebrate all night long. You'll be dancing in the streets all night long. Mrs. Weedman, this is you.
Lionel Richie.
Nice
work.
Thank you.
All right. So here we are, barbecue season, and it kind of really marks the first official summer barbecue get-together since we've had recreationally legal weed in the Chicagoland area. So
big clouds going on in Chicago.
So it's like the first summer get-together, and there's going to be weed. There just is. And at your summer barbecues, you usually have a mixture of friends and family. And there might be people within either of those crowds that approve and others that disapprove. So in the years leading up to this, it was always kind of the rule that you wait till the family leaves before you smoke the weed. Go far in the corner and wait till the grandmas leave.
Go in the alley.
And the nieces and nephews and the kids. And it's just your grown-ups and your friends, and fine, do your thing. But this year, the dynamic would be different, will be different, really, because it's legal. So it's like you could just sit out there and you could do it. It's like having
a beer.
Right. It's like having a beer. But unfortunately, we have the COVID-19 still lingering around. So we're not going to be having a big party at all. It's just not. I know. Mr. Weedman's not happy about that. But we're not going to be having a big party. It might be a few family members coming by.
I want to have a street party.
So anyway, I just was kind of saying, I guess, it's legal, so I guess you don't have to wait for anyone to leave. You can just smoke, just like you're going to have a beer, and that's okay. So there may be someone that says, whoa, there might be a neighbor that says, whoa, they're smoking weed. And it might be daylight, and their kids might smell it. And they might have to smell it while they're in their backyard, but, we're in our space. It's our yard, and we are legal.
Woohoo!
And it is recreationally legal, so whatever. So I would just say educate those people. They're going to have questions, so answer them with kindness. You know what weed means to you, so give them a little information. Maybe they just don't understand it. Maybe they just don't know about it. And remind them it's legal. And then they might have questions again. And just explain that it's not bad, it's not wrong. It's just something that they're not used to. And then I would say introduce them, like teach them about it. Offer them to have some. And if they're not willing to have some in the moment, then say maybe you'd want to come over one time when it's just like a couple people. And maybe we aren't drinking and you can try weed for the first time to see how it really feels. And so just make it welcoming. And if they're still against it, then challenge them to educate themselves, and challenge them to continue asking you. If they don't want to have to do research, but they've got questions, challenge them to just shoot a text you. Hey, I don't understand it. Hey, what does this mean? What does that mean? But on that note, for those that don't understand it and want to learn about it, there's like verbiage, there's like weed lingo. So I just thought I'd go over a little bit of that. Like, what does it mean to get a bud? What does it mean to have a flower? Well, they're just the same thing. The bud or the flower of the plant is what gets smoked. So as the plant grows and the bud forms, then it gets clipped or trimmed and it's going to dry. And then that's what you smoke. And that's what you make a joint with. That's what you would fill your bong with. And so that's another thing. Like, what are the tools that you smoke with? What are these things called? So some of them look kind of weird. Like,
we have a lot of variety.
A lot of
here on our
glass
table.
pipes, which you might think are for bad things, but glass pipes are used for smoking weed. And you might have a bong, and that looks like your lab beaker. Generally it's glass. It's cylindrical, and it has.
What was that word?
Cylindrical.
Can you say it 3 times really fast?
Cylindrical. No. Cylindrical.
Yeah, you gotta pause there.
With a long neck, and then it has a little offshoot, and that's the little bowl where the marijuana is going to go. Anyway, so you've got bongs, you've got pipes, you have a vape pen, like those little jewel pens that kids have. They can be as small as that or smaller. They can be big things.
You have edibles. There's
edibles, and those are food items that have cannabis infused within them. And then you can just have a plain old joint that looks like a filterless cigarette.
We do love joints.
We love joints. So those are the basics. And what does a bud or a nug look like? Like, I had a hard time conceptualizing what an ounce would look like. And so I found like a little infographic. So basically, like, think of a bud as being like the top joint of a finger, like a fingertip, right? That's a bud. And they can be compact and tight. and they can be loose and kind of fluffy, but they're dry. So a gram, you hear people refer to how you buy cannabis. I bought a gram, and that lasts me for the week. Well, what is a gram? And that would be like what would you say, Mr. Weedman? Like 2 or 3 nugs?
Yep.
Oh, that's another name. Nug. A bud, a flower, or a nug. Those are all kind of referring to just one bud. So about 3 of those would make up a gram-ish, right?
Yep.
And then a lot of people refer to an eighth. That's an eighth of an ounce. So you're looking at like 4 to 5 larger buds, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a half ounce, and that would be like fill the palm of your hand, like 1 layer, right?
A little bit bigger.
A little bit more, maybe.
Yeah. Depending
like,
how big the nuggets are. Mm-hmm.
And then people would buy by an ounce, and that would be like
the
like
OZ,
cup,
baby,
yeah,
the OZ.
Like that's a large handful. So I would say, like filling, like if you were like if we just smoked, and we each took a couple hits off of what is that considered, a pipe?
Yep.
And so we each took a couple hits, and that was like a pinch of weed, which was maybe half of a bud.
Yeah, I would say half of a gram. Yeah.
So
you're
looking at like smoking a half of a gram if it's 2 people in a session, right? And the other thing that we would do most commonly would be like a bong. That would take about the same amount of weed. And then if we were to build a joint, it would probably be like a full nug, and you grind that down.
Like fatties in this house.
Yeah, and so that would make a nice joint. So that's just kind of like basic.
Yeah, we're not smoking out of a bong today. We're smoking out of a steamroller, which is actually Mrs. Weedman's probably
steamroller.
Yes, her favorite.
It is
her favorite pipe that we have. Her favorite bowl to smoke out of. And if you don't know what a steamroller is, a steamroller has 2 MIG holes, one at the front end, one in the back. The bowl's usually in the middle, and you put your hand on it, and you fill that whole entire pipe with smoke, cannabis smoke, and then you let your finger off, and you get a shotgun. And it's steamrolls, right? Yeah, and it's smooth, and you can get a good hit and a good flavor. This is her favorite. We've been smoking out of this thing I actually just cleaned it because we use it a lot, and it helps Mrs. Weedman because she doesn't cough a lot when she uses the steamroller.
Because I can see how full it is.
Yes.
So I inhale based on how full.
We have a clear glass one and it's her favorite. And actually, we smoke out of it a lot. I smoke out of my other stuff a lot too, but this is the one that I know is good for her. And that's the thing, finding what works for you when you're smoking. So go ahead, Mrs. Weedman. You're doing a great job, by the way.
Oh, that's it. That was just my little 101 on basic lingo.
We have a lot of new listeners, a lot of moms that are just getting into cannabis and dads that are just getting into cannabis, which is kind of nice. So this is a great portion of her talking about what and learning and teaching, because as we always talk about, we're learning and growing every day by learning about cannabis and helping you guys learn. So as we grow our listener base, this is helping a lot of people who are just getting into cannabis. So if you know this already, sorry, but hopefully it's a refresher. If you don't know it and you're learning about it, ask us questions, DM us and stuff on this. And Mrs. Weedman, you did a great job. But
I think it's a good conversation to have, even for the people who are probably even more knowledgeable in the things that I was trying to explain. Just bringing it back to the 101, because at that barbecue, when someone challenges you and says that it's bad, these simple things that I was just talking about, like talking about measurements of it, how you smoke it, it's just knowledge that people don't know. So those people that object to it don't understand these things, and they don't know what all the tools are, and they don't know what all this is, and they don't understand the behavior or the draw to it. So the more willing you are to share these, like maybe what seems mundane and repetitive and redundant, if you're willing to share it for the people that are trying to get to learn it, it can be helpful. So that's all.
Very good, Mrs. Weedman.
Oh, thanks.
I thought it was great. I don't know if we have any history buffs on here, but I was reading this last week and found out, now this is great, because we've talked about cannabis has been around for 10,000 years when they first discovered it, and for thousands and thousands of years. Here's proof. Cannabis was burned during worship by ancient Israelites. A study finds cannabis on an altar. And it was a well-preserved substance found in a 2,700-year-old temple in Telerad, has been identified as cannabis, including the psychoactive compound THC. researchers concluded that cannabis may have been burned in order to induce a high among worshippers. Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first evidence of a psychotropic drug being used in the early Jewish worship, Israeli media reports. The temple was first discovered in the Negev Desert, about 59 miles south of Tel Aviv in the 1960s. And the latest study published in the Tel Aviv University Archaeological Journal, says 2 limestone altars had been buried within the shrine. Thanks in part to dry climate and to the burial, the remains of burnt offerings were preserved on top of these altars. Frankincense was also found on the altar, which was unsurprising because of its prominence in holy text. They didn't write about cannabis in the Bible, though. Unfortunately, I bet you it was in there one time and they took it out. Just my conspiracy theory. Sorry. The study authors told Israeli newspaper. However, THC and CBD and CBDM, all compounds found in cannabis, were found on the second altar. Yes. The study adds the findings in Telrad suggest that cannabis also played a role in worship at a temple of Jerusalem. This is because at the time the shrine in Arad was part of Hilltop Fortress at the southern frontier of the Kingdom of Judea, and is said to match a scaled-down version of biblical descriptions of the first temple in Jerusalem. The remains of the temple in Jerusalem are now inaccessible to archaeologists. So, instead, they studied Arad and other similar shrines to help them understand worship at larger temples. I think that's friggin' awesome that they found it. 2,700-year-old nug. Because cannabis has been called a drug for so long, and it's actually not. It is a plant. It is from the earth. It is not processed in any way. It's grown in natural soil and water and nutrients. Okay, and it's not a drug. All right. And if they used it 2,700 years ago in worship, why can't we use it today? Make it legal globally. Okay? It is not a drug. It helps you. If it helps you worship, if it helps you pray and helps you see whoever you believe in, okay? If it helps you get to that level, why is something like that bad? It shouldn't be. It's good. Okay? Here's something really cool, some international news. In Czechoslovakia, medical cannabis is covered by insurance. Jeez. Go Czechoslovakia. That is dope for your insurance companies to cover medical cannabis. The only thing bad about the whole entire system is they only have one cultivator. And people are fighting to get more cultivations and more growers in Czechoslovakia. United States, listen up. You have veterans that we just talked about. We have people who have cancer that we just talked about. We have people who have medical issues that need cannabis to help them. Get it federally legal so insurance companies will cover it as a prescription. And we can go to dispensaries, or we can go to a caregiver who grows it for us, and we can use our insurance cards to pay for it, to help people. Okay? This is my topic today, is helping people. As you can tell, I keep on talking about it. So, go Czechoslovakia. I'm proud of you. Our international news today. In downtown Chicago, though, Sunnyside dispensary, owned by Cresco Labs, opened up their first one in downtown River North last week. And they are opening up another one on the north side of Wrigleyville, which is they're boasting to be the largest dispensary in the United States. But the one down by River North did have some issues last week, and hopefully they'll rebound and be back up and running soon. So congratulations on being the first dispensary in River North. Who would have thought, you know? Something I want to talk about Michigan real quick, because I shop at this store a lot. When I'm in Portage, they passed recreational marijuana business regulations and it's finally going rec. And the place that I support and go to, because they were reciprocal to Illinois medical cards, was Lake Effect. Congratulations, Lake Effect. I hope you're actually going to need to grow a little bit and get a little bit bigger store, because your store is awesome and you're going to be a lot busier moving forward. So congratulations, Lake Effect in Kalamazoo and Portage. And moving on, Mrs. Weedman has the last topic of the day here, and I think it's funny because I enjoy the Beatles, and there's a song called The Yellow Submarine, and I don't know if this one's a yellow submarine, it's probably a green submarine. Go ahead, take it away, Mrs. Weedman.
So there's a Canadian drug smuggler, and he apparently washed up in the Detroit River, and he's now facing 3 potential charges from the Department of Homeland Security. This gentleman's name is Mr. Mousseau, and he was the dealer of a smuggling organization that moves money and drugs via a submarine that crosses the Detroit River. Apparently, the guy was arrested. He had been driving in a U-Haul truck. He got pulled over. They questioned him about the submarine and questioned him about the drug trafficking, and for some reason allowed him to stay in a hotel after he apparently told them that it was his submarine that they had seized. And what did he do? He ran. He ran, of course.
I would have ran.
Right?
I would have.
Right. So
I
he
would
ran.
have got out of friggin' Dodge as quick as possible.
Yeah. But apparently he went back to his old shenanigans.
Well,
without his submarine. He tried to cross in what they referred to as a vessel. I don't know what that meant. Maybe a raft, a kayak. And anyway, that failed. And he washed ashore attached to some bundles. And yeah, I would say that was a washout. Yeah. So he's I don't know if he died. He was just unconscious.
Oh, okay. So he didn't die.
Yeah. So he's in trouble.
A little bit.
Yep, he's caught. Party's over for Mr. Mousseau.
Man.
And his yellow submarine.
He should be related to Jacques Cousteau, maybe.
Yeah.
Really.
No, not Cousteau. Mousseau.
Oh, Mousseau.
Mousseau.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. Well,
party's over.
Party's over for him. Mm-hmm. And just like that nurse that tried to smuggle 150 pounds of weed from Canada, another dummy. It's kind of funny though, because here's the thing. We've always heard the term Mexican drug smugglers or cartel smugglers from Mexico. Now we're hearing Canadian drug smugglers from Canada. Yeah. Coming from the north. See, you have, this is one last topic I'm going to hit on, and you have smugglers from Mexico smuggling drugs into the United States. You have smugglers from Canada smuggling cannabis from Canada to the United States. Listen up, United States government, okay? Do you think people want cannabis for a reason? It's one of the most smuggled and most consumed in the world, and we just talked about it being smoked and being burned in 2,700 years ago. Okay? Why are you letting other people take the income that we can have in this country and letting other countries smuggle it in and going through the black market so we, the people of the United States of America, can't make an income off of this and can't do anything with it because you have it on the federally scheduled one? Okay? Time for you people to learn something here. Start researching, start reading, start learning, okay, about not only cannabis, but about this country and what it was founded on and who people are and what we could do as communities and come together, okay, and be a unity. Queen Latifah said it the best. U-N-I-T-Y, U-N-I-T-Y, that's a unity, okay? Remember that. And I just want to say one more time, please be kind, please be nice to people, no matter who they are, okay? Show character and heart out there, okay? No matter who you are out there, you all have it. And I want to say thank you again for listening to our podcast and some of our shenanigans and some of our ramblings and some of our rants and raves, and it's all out of love, okay? And it's all about who we are to help you grow and learn as we learn and grow every day with you. And we really appreciate we're almost at 11,000 downloads all across the world now. I appreciate you listening out there. It humbles me to know that we have people listening to us, And I thank you. Also, don't forget to listen to our podcast. We're on all platforms now. And also DM us on Instagram at WeedMan420 Chronicles, on Twitter at WeedMan420Pod. Shoot us an email at WeedMan420Chronicles@gmail.com. And we love you all. Please be safe out there as we are coming into one of the greatest holidays. And be safe in celebration. And one day we'll all smoke joints again together. I love you all. Mrs. WeedMan, you got anything to say?
That's all for now. Have a great week, everyone. Stay safe.
As Paulie always says, smoke smart, puff, puff, and away.